Hello, everybody. Welcome to fucking Whack Comics. I'm here with Tyler as always. How you going, man?
I'm
What are we
good.
talking about? What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about new comic books that come out on New Comic Book Day for the comic books at the comic book store.
Oh, the new
You know what
comic.
comics come out this week
Uh,
on New Comic Book Day?
yeah, I'm familiar with the new comics that come out this week. There's a whole bunch of titles.
Yeah, in comics we've got comics from DC Comics from the comic book shop. I
Yeah,
think DC Comic Books.
there's the DC comics. I think they're published by DC. Comic books
Yeah.
that are published by DC Comics.
Yep, they do make some
They're,
new comics. New
they're coming
comics,
out.
and they have old comics that have already been out, but we're talking about the new comics for New Comic Book Day.
Yeah,
All of
there's
those
gonna be.
comic books that come out for new comics.
Yeah, and there's also going to be probably some Marvel comics that come out. Comic books, Marvel comic books.
Ooh, I heard
Uh,
there's some big time comics coming out for that comic book store and that comic book like studio. They've got big comics coming out for those comics and more comics too.
There's more comics to come too. You just got to look out for the comics from all these comic book publishers. They're all doing the comic books. They've got comic books coming on New Comic Book Day. There's New Comic Book Day coming.
Oh, and on next comic book day, there's a really big comic coming out done by a newer comic book publisher. And they make comics too, just like all the other comic book people we talked about that also make comics for New Comic Book Day on comic books.
And there's also more comics coming out from them, I'm sure. Not only on this New Comic Book Day and the next one, but the future ones as well. There's so many new comic book days. Every week is a new comic book day. It's so good.
Hopefully soon I'll be able to pick up my comics from last New Comic Book Day so I can be ready for New Comic Book Day for my new comics to come out on New Comic Book Day because I'm just need more comics to read.
I'm always looking for new comics to read, especially on New Comic Book Day. New Comic Book Day is the best day to get new comic books to read, especially when I need new comic books to read. I go to get new comic books on New Comic Book Day because I need comic books to read.
So, do we have any other news coming out about New Comic Book Day? Because I know there is new comics coming out on New Comic Book Day for new comic books for new people to read more comic books. But I don't know if you have any new comic book news or comic related news about the comics that we're going to be picking up on New Comic Book Day.
Yes, indeed. There is always new news about comic books. You just have to look out your window to see some news about the news of the comic books that are coming out on New Comic Book Day. There's new news on New Comic Book Day every New Comic Book Day.
Yeah, and I think that'll about cover it for New Comic Book Day. Hopefully, that helped you guys be able to find some comics at your comic book shop on New Comic Book Day for
Yep.
lots of comics that are coming out.